When the very first people arrived in the world, they had no words. You see, before any word could speak, it had to choose a living person to speak it, and the words hadn't chosen anyone yet. Imagine how difficult it must have been for people to do anything without words to help. But the people waited, and somehow they managed. Well, one day, for no clear reason, the first word spoke. The word yes chose someone to speak it. When yes finally arrived, everything changed. Without yes, it's so difficult to open your eyes in the morning, and no one around you will help you. Without yes, the world couldn't last long. Maybe it wouldn't even be here. But every word is important in its own way, and after yes had opened the door, the other words soon followed, one by one at first, and then in swarms, buzzing all their different sounds. The words were so excited because no one had ever said them before. Nose, hear, cook, run. Even rhinoceros pranced on the tongue for sheer joy, though that particular word did take a little while to jostle into someone's throat. Soon, every word that existed had arrived and spoken. Every word that is, except one. That word didn't feel there was a place for it in the world. More than that, the word just hadn't found the right person to speak it. Can you guess what the missing word was? Well, while you're thinking, we'll carry on with the story. There was a little girl who lived near the sea. By now there were words everywhere, and everyone was chattering, but not this little girl. She never said a thing. She was such a kind and thoughtful child, and people thought her silence always meant yes. So they asked her to do all kinds of chores and errands they should have done themselves. In fact, they very much took her for granted. The missing word watched this little girl very closely. The word felt sorry for her, and each day grew to like her more. The word could see that the little girl needed help. And so, one cold morning, the missing word chose her. The little girl's neighbour was asking her to run an errand right away, even though the girl didn't have her coat on, hadn't eaten breakfast yet, and had many of her own chores to do that day. Finally, the little girl spoke her first word. The word spoke itself kindly but firmly. It said, no. From that day on, the girl said no whenever she needed to, yet she always used the word carefully. She never spoke it to get her own way, or to be hurtful, or to avoid doing those things that were right for her to do. But she didn't hesitate to use no to protect herself, especially if she felt uncomfortable about any situation. Sometimes, especially when people want something from us, they try to make us feel that no is a bad word. It isn't. Just like yes, it all depends when and how and why you use it. Use no wisely and it helps everybody. You see, without yes, there's no world at all. But without no, our world can't be balanced or fair or clear. The little girl came to understand how yes and no need each other, like the ins and outs of the tide. Every once in a while, a new word enters the world. That new word finds a person to speak it and speaks. When it does, it's usually a cause for celebration among the other words already here. When at last that little girl brought no into the world, all the other words celebrated. But the word that celebrated most was yes.